Did you hear that? Okay. Yeah. All right, let's do 5 minutes of 140, and I will be plaintiff attorney Mr. Patterson.
I am the witness.
I am the court.
I'm for defense, Mr. Carey.
All right, begins with me. What else? Oh, we're on page 4. Did I not tell anybody else? Oh.
What else?
Other than fund-run promotions to assist Mr. Stevens.
We sponsored a soccer team, and the jerseys and everything came from his store. That came to about $300.
You paid or credited Mr. Stevens that amount for purposes of those jerseys?
I think we paid Mr. Stevens for the jerseys.
Was there anything else done regarding product lines for Mr. Stevens?
From the very beginning, when Mr. Stevens moved into his store, he didn't have a good shoe line, athletic shoe line, and everybody in our office tried to work on helping him get a shoe line. I personally called the salesman, Mr. Cope, and asked him to call Mr. Stevens and had a long discussion about why he should and how I thought Mr. Stevens' store was terrific. Mr. Cope felt that there were enough Nike shoe representatives in the area, but I told him that Mr. Stevens deserved at least a chance and that Mr. Cope ought to go and look at his store and see what he was doing, which I thought was very exciting. And I wrote a letter to Mr. Stevens and said so. And as a result, maybe not of that, but certainly that had to have something to do with it. Mr. Stevens now has the Nike line, which I think is a big percentage of his business.
When you say you did write a letter to Mr. Stevens,
Yes, I wrote a letter to Mr. Stevens explaining what exactly had transpired in my conversation with Mr. Cope.
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to be asking a couple of questions about the gross sales of Mr. Stevens' store. We have requested that that type of information remain confidential, and I would certainly offer the same alternative to Mr. Stevens. If you'd like the courtroom cleared and like instructions as to confidentiality to be maintained by this information, I'd be happy to.
Are you going to ask Mr. Stevens about his gross sales?
Yes.
He doesn't care.
All right. Your Honor, it's also been pointed out to me that Plaintiff's 14, the exterminator bill, was not admitted into evidence. I would ask that that be admitted.
Any objection?
No objection.
That's in evidence.
Mrs. Shaw, you have received from Kenneth Stevens figures as to his gross sales for 1981 and calendar year 1982. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you heard Mr. Stevens testify in open court as to his total sales for 1982.
That's correct.
That, according to your calculations, his total was what in 81?
Approximately $216,000.
What were his gross sales in 1982?
306. How do you say? You know what I'm saying.
100?
No.
306000.
306,000? 306,000?
Thank you. $306,000.
All right. Okay, and have you computed the percentage of increase from 1981 to 1982?
Yes, it's 42% increase.
Your Honor, that's it.
Increase is
42%.
of what figure?
1982 over 1981.
And the figures were $216,000.
216,000.
16.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mr. Carey,
Excuse me, I must have missed something. You're through?
Yes.
do you have any further or redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mrs. Shaw, you testified that at the time Sally Cummings terminated her lease with you, she was behind in rent approximately $7,000.
I'm not 100% sure because I haven't seen her ledger for a long time.
Okay, well, that's all right. That's approximate,
I think so.
and some of that is late charges.
Yes.
If somebody's late with her rent, generally you charge them so much percent until it's paid. Is that correct?
No.
All right, let's continue on up to 150. We'll just continue on in your answer there. All right, how'd you do? Good.
Oh, they're all yawning at once. Did you see that?
Come on, how about shoe sales? What more? All right, 5 minutes at 150. We'll start with that answer there. Ready?
It says in the lease, if you're late in your rent is now due on the 1st, overdue on the 10th. As long as it's overdue, you're charged 10%.
Just 10%?
Yeah.
And she had some late rent in there?
Yes, she did.
Okay, you testified about helping Ken with the fund run and sponsoring a soccer team, helping him get Nike. Would you agree that you have an interest in helping your tenants engage in these promotions and get additional product lines because ultimately it will benefit yourself?
Well, in establishing a brand new shopping center, their success is our success.
Correct. And in addition, in this case, if Mr. Stevens reaches a certain percentage in his gross sales, you will get a percentage of that. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Now, you've mentioned that Mr. Stevens did not complain to you in October of 1982 about waterproofing?
Yes.
Okay. That first rain came in October, and in fact, Mr. Stevens himself testified it was no considerable problem at that point. The original problems came with the November rain, is that right?
That's correct.
And is it your testimony that Mr. Stevens did not complain to you in November about water problems?
Mr. Stevens did not complain to me in November.
He complained to Mr. Farron, who then told you about it?
Yes.
You've indicated that you have observed Ken's front windows, in that when the condensation is there, that you can see products from the outside?
That's correct.
How often do you come up to the center and inspect the premises?
I come up to the center once a month, but I don't necessarily inspect the premises once a month. I try to go in and see everybody once a month. It just depends on what else is going on.
You're not there on a day-to-day basis?
No, I'm not.
Haven't you allowed other tenants to have adjacent space if that space has been vacant as sort of a trial run?
I don't think we have.
You haven't done that with any other tenants?
We have an empty space that we allowed tenants to have meetings and things in, but to allow a tenant to move into a vacant space as we did Ken, I don't believe we've done that. I don't remember right at this moment.
Okay, is it possible that you may have done that with one more tenant besides Ken?
Objection calls for speculation as to her recollection.
Sustained.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson, any more questions?
One or two. Mr. Stevens ever been behind on his rent?
Yes, he has.
When did that occur?
He started paying rent for the second space.
Do you know the maximum amount he was behind in his rent?
Approximately $14,000.
Were there late charges assessed against him for that amount?
Yes, there were.
Did he in fact pay those late charges?
No, he didn't.
Why not?
Because as he testified, he and I had a meeting about the amount that he owed us, and we agreed that he would make double payments throughout the summer to take care of his balance. And we agreed that if he, by the time he specified, had finished payments, I said that we would take away his late charges, in which in fact he did, and which in fact we did. $2,000 I think were the late charges.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Carey,
No more questions.
Am I finished?
nothing further. Thank you very much, Mrs. Shaw. Mr. Carey,
Call Dave Morris, Your Honor.
can we get an estimate from counsel on the remaining testimony, Mr. Carey?
About an hour, 45 minutes.
I assume that you have rebuttal.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your suggestion then for the scheduling?
What's it look like Monday, Your Honor?
Trial starting at 9:30 Monday.
I have depositions on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for another attorney in my office who is going to trial, and I don't think those can be rescheduled. I also have a deposition on Friday, and we have got people out of town this week.
This court has a conference this afternoon between 4:30 and 4:45. It's flexible. I would propose to hear Mr. Morris this afternoon. Do you have any other witnesses?
Mr. Morris and Miss Cummings, who would be very brief unless they're going to go well beyond the examination I make.
Those will be the only two. If we get to Miss Cummings this afternoon, those will be the only two we hear.
I would appreciate if we got Mrs. Cummings on. She has to go to Los Angeles.
All right, is there 5 minutes left? Yeah. All right, ready for some 160 then? I'll take that as a yes. All right, 160, let's start right there with the court on what you were going to say next. Okay, please.
Let's take Mr. Morris first. We should still have time for Miss Cummings.
Okay, Your Honor. State your name and your occupation, please.
David Morris, Vice President of Beacom Construction Company.
Okay, you've been listening to some of the testimony this afternoon, have you?
Yes,
Okay, and you're the general contractor for Redwood Village Shopping Center?
yes,
Okay, familiar with the moisture problems they've been having there in the past 3 winters?
yes,
Still having some moisture problems there?
yes,
Did you bring some papers with you?
yes, I did.
Is there a declaration in there that was prepared by the attorneys for the plaintiff here?
Yes,
Okay, would you get that out, please? May I have it? I would like to mark this as defendant's next in order.
Number, please.
Would you mark that Q?
Counsel, for the plaintiff, seen that?
They prepared it.
I don't know that. I'm asking only in this courtroom.
I have a copy. It may be the same, Your Honor, although a quick comparison indicated that there is some additional typing on the first page of the proposed exhibit.
You got me. Does it say the same thing ultimately?
I don't know. That's why we have had to read it a little more closely.
Please do.
Here's another one. This is the same as the exhibit.
It appears to be substantially the same as the one that we have in our file, although there is some change in language. Go ahead.
Mr. Morris, this is a declaration that came out of your file?
yes, it is.
Okay, where did you get it?
Mr. Patterson sent it to me from San Francisco.
Okay, did he request that you sign that?
Yes, he did.
Did you refuse to sign it?
In his letter, he said if the declaration is accurate, sign it and call me.
Okay, excuse me, is the declaration accurate?
Somewhat, but we had a discussion on the telephone. There were 3 items that weren't accurate.
Briefly, what are the 3 items?
Well, I was informed of that. I had my counsel look at this and he said that I was not qualified to make some of the opinions that were in here. On item 16, it says, in my professional opinion, the leaks this year have not been significant and have not made the operation of Mr. Stevens' business.
You feel you're not qualified to...
No, I'm not. And then paragraph 20 says that it is not unusual for the initial application of waterproofing to fall short of completely sealing all leakage. Our experience in the past with this product has been that it has done the job for the first application. That's why we selected it.
Is there anything else wrong with the declaration?
Not that I can remember.
Did you believe that the center was 90% Mr. Stevens' premises were 90% better than last year?
That's hard to judge. The first couple of rains, it was 100% waterproofed, but we didn't have the heavy winds. We got the heavy winds out of the south and the driving rains, and it developed a significant problem.
I would offer the document into evidence, Your Honor.
Object to it, Your Honor. On what basis would it come in? An unsigned proposed declaration? The witness can testify on the stand to matters that are...
And he did, so it's all right with me, Your Honor.
Are you withdrawing the document?
Yes,
Defendant's Q is not in evidence. Withdrawn by the defendant.
this would be R then. It is a letter dated December 2, 1982, to Mr. Dinsmore from Mr. Morris. Do you have that there?
Yes?
Do you recognize this document, Mr. Morris?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and did you send that to Mr. Dinsmore?
Yes, I did.
Offer it in evidence, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the letter is not to plaintiff, and it contains hearsay statements from other persons. I'll object to it on the grounds of hearsay, and
Let's see.
it makes reference, Your Honor, to Menlo's acknowledging to Mr. Morris the water-damaged inventories, which seems to me it would reflect Menlo Management's state of mind as to the problems.
Well, of course, I don't know what else is in the document. I'll sustain the objection of the document. You may ask Mr. Morris about the contents.
Can you explain to me what you are talking to Mr. Dinsmore about in the first sentence, Mr. Morris? Did you have contact from Menlo Management about damaged inventories?
Yes.
The document has been objected to. If you want to ask questions about the contents without directing the witness to the document, you may do so, Mr. Carey.
On or about December of 1982, did you have any contact with Susie Shaw?
Yes, I had.
Okay, and did she happen to mention to you problems that the center was having and that Menlo Management was having with the tenants complaining about damaged inventory?
I believe that our discussion was that the center was waterproofed by Beacom Construction Company and guaranteed.
All right, let's pick some speed building. Let's see. Oh, I don't know. Just so you can speed building, okay? Where do I start?
That one would be good. So, I'm going through all that.
All right, what page are you on?
15. Halfway down.
All right, and stop on,
And
could you stop on that one?
okay.
All right. All right, let's do speed building. So 3 up, we'll do 160, 170, 180, back to 160. So we'll start,
By Mr. Carey.
right,
And ending here.
and then we'll just flip back and start over.
So 3 times, right?
4.
4 times, okay.
4.
4 times?
All
Got it.
right. 160, 170, 180, back to 160.
On or about December of 1982, did you have any contact with Susie Shaw?
Yes, I had.
Okay, and did she happen to mention to you problems that the center was having and that Menlo Management was having with the tenants complaining about damaged inventory?
I believe that our discussion was that the center was waterproofed by Beacom Construction Company and guaranteed, and that she was alluding to the fact that if there were damaged inventories, she expected us to participate in reimbursement, our insurance company.
Did she inform you that there were inventories already damaged?
Nothing specific.
Well, I would offer the letter into evidence as a prior inconsistent statement. The letter speaks for itself and says that there was damaged inventories and damaged so that they won't be able to be sold. and this came from Menlo Management.
I don't know who he's attempting to impeach here.
I don't think there's been a question, but that there have been some damaged inventory.
I think that's been well established.
I'll withdraw the exhibit, Your Honor.
I'll object to the letter on the grounds previously stated.
That will be sustained. The defendant's R is withdrawn.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson?
One moment, Your Honor, please. Mr. Morris, you indicated that the problem developed this last winter because of heavy rains and significant winds. Is that correct?
Yes.
On or about December of 1982, did you have contact with Susie Shaw?
Yes, I had.
Okay, and did she happen to mention to you problems that the center was having and that Menlo Management was having with the tenants complaining about damaged inventory?
I believe that our discussion was that the center was waterproofed by Beacom Construction Company and guaranteed, and that she was alluding to the fact that if there were damaged inventories, she expected us to participate in reimbursement, our insurance company.
Did she inform you that there were inventories already damaged?
Nothing specific.
Well, I would offer the letter into evidence as a prior inconsistent statement. The letter speaks for itself and says that there was damaged inventories and damaged so that they won't be able to be sold. And this came from Menlo Management.
I don't know who he's attempting to impeach here.
I don't think there's been a question, but that there have been some damaged inventory.
I think that's been well established.
I'll withdraw the exhibit, Your Honor.
I'll object to the letter on the grounds previously stated.
That will be sustained. The defendant's R is withdrawn.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson?
One moment, Your Honor, please. Mr. Morris, you indicated that the problem developed this last winter because of heavy rains and significant winds. Is that correct?
Yes.
On or about December of 1982, did you have any contact with Susie Shaw?
Yes, I had.
Okay, and did she happen to mention to you problems that the center was having and that Menlo Management was having with the tenants complaining about damaged inventory?
I believe that our discussion was that the center was waterproofed by Beacom Construction Company and guaranteed, and that she was alluding to the fact that if there were damaged inventories, she expected us to participate in reimbursement, our insurance company.
Did she inform you that there were inventories already damaged?
Nothing specific.
Well, I would offer the letter into evidence as a prior inconsistent statement. The letter speaks for itself and says that there was damaged inventories and damaged so that they won't be able to be sold. And this came from Menlo Management.
I don't know who he's attempting to impeach here.
I don't think there's been a question, but that there have been some damaged inventory.
I think that's been well established.
I'll withdraw the exhibit, Your Honor.
I'll object to the letter on the grounds previously stated.
That will be sustained. The defendant's R is withdrawn.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson?
One moment, Your Honor, please. Mr. Morris, you indicated that the problem developed this last winter because of heavy rains and significant winds. Is that correct?
Yes.
On or about December of 1982, did you have any contact with Susie Shaw?
Yes, I had.
Okay, and did she happen to mention to you problems that the center was having and that Menlo Management was having with the tenants complaining about damaged inventory?
I believe that our discussion was that the center was waterproofed by Beacom Construction Company and guaranteed, and that she was alluding to the fact that if there were damaged inventory, she expected us to participate in reimbursement, our insurance company.
Did she inform you that there were inventories already damaged?
Nothing specific.
Well, I would offer the letter into evidence as a prior inconsistent statement. The letter speaks for itself and says that there was damaged inventories and damaged so that they won't be able to be sold. And this came from Menlo Management.
I don't know who he's attempting to impeach here.
I don't think there's been a question, but that there have been some damaged inventory.
I think that's been well established.
I'll withdraw the exhibit, Your Honor.
I'll object to the letter on the grounds previously stated.
That will be sustained. The defendant's R is withdrawn.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Patterson?
One moment, Your Honor, please. Mr. Morris, you indicated that the problem developed this last winter because of heavy rains and significant winds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, we'll do our tests on the next one. So did you get those briefs in there? Insurance company, sure. Got no further questions? All right, how's this one look? I think good. Elma, do you talk in the, do you, so just the court, do you come in? Oh, there's one. All right, yeah. All right, so for 160, I will be plaintiff Mr. Grenier.
I am the witness.
I am the court.
I am for defense, Mr. Gedge.
And let's see some caps. I'll spell those names for you when we start, if you're really nice. We're talking about the car, the keys, the junk, and the hump in the car. H-U-M-P.
Sounds like a song.
I'm rapping. Mr. Tatum, T-A-T-U-M, keychain, gas tank, directing your attention, liquor store, L-I-R-S, right? Long Beach Boulevard, 49th Street, William Brent, B-R-E-N-T, also called Willie, W-I-L-L-I-E. Mr. Tatum's first name is Robert. Virginia Street, Del Amo Boulevard, 2 words, D-E-L-A-M-O. We have on page 8.
Where?
We have a Cadillac.
Having a hard
Not
time.
very good on the side there. All right. After Cadillac, let's see. Mr. William Chu, C-H-E-W, and Allstate. All right. Want to identify for the tape?
Okay.
Okay, today is 7/6. This is our 164 voice. I'm plaintiff Mr. Grenier, G-R-E-N-I-E-R.
Oh, sorry. I'm the witness.
I'm the court.
I am for defense, Mr. Gedge, G-E-D-G-E.
And we start there with me. In the middle of the page where it says, okay, ready? Do you see it? Did you check to see if it was gone?
Yes.
Was it gone?
Yes.
Now, did this car have plates on it?
It didn't have any plates on it at the time.
I am talking about license plates.
It did not.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Now, on this occasion, when you parked the car there on July 9, did you leave the keys in the car?
No, I didn't.
Had you lost keys to this particular car before this date?
No.
Had you ever had missing keys in regard to this particular car?
I had a set. This is the second time the car had been stolen. I had a set of keys inside the car in a little deal that sits on the hump where I put all my junk, I call it.
Were those?
They were missing.
Was that set of keys in your car on that date of July 9?
No, they wasn't. They was taken out the first time the car was stolen.
When was the first time?
It was stolen on June 5, I believe.
So you had never seen that set of keys again?
I had not.
Your Honor, I have what appears to be a set of keys. May this be marked plaintiff's one for identification?
It may be so marked.
Mr. Tatum, directing your attention to what has been marked People's one for identification, do you recognize this set of keys?
Those are my keys.
Are all the keys on this keychain your keys?
All of them are mine.
Directing your attention to one key that is bent, the shaft is bent. Was it bent like that when you had last seen it?
No, I had a locked gas cap on my car, and I would imagine this key was used to try and get in the gas tank This is not the gas tank key. That is from another lock.
Object, move it be stricken as speculation.
The portion about I assume it was used to enter the gas cap may be stricken.
Now, directing your attention to the defendant here, seated at council table, do you recognize him?
I do.
How long have you known the defendant?
I don't know him.
Have you seen?
I have seen him once before.
Did you ever give him permission to enter your car?
I never gave him any permission.
To take your car?
Never did.
You indicated that you had seen him. When did you see him?
The first time I saw him was when he was coming out of the liquor store and I had my gun on him.
Was that July 14?
That's right.
Where was this liquor store located at?
It is located on the corner of Long Beach Boulevard and 49th Street, I believe.
Where did you see the defendant?
He was coming out of the liquor store.
What did you do?
I put my gun on him. I told him to hold it.
Did the police then come?
They came about 5 minutes later, I would say.
Did you have some information about the defendant?
Yes, you mean how did I know he was there?
Yes.
Yes, the manager where I live, he saw him going up to the liquor store and he came and told me.
What is his name?
Brent, Willie Brent.
No further questions?
I have no questions of this witness.
Call Mr. Brent, William Brent.
Mr. Brent, do you know the first witness that testified, Mr. Robert Tatum?
Yes, I do.
Now on July 14 at approximately 8 p.m., where were you?
At 8 p.m., I was on my way from work, coming up Delamo Boulevard, going west on Delamo.
Now at that time, did you notice anything unusual?
Yes, I noticed Robert's car coming out of, I believe it is Virginia Street, heading on to Delamo Boulevard, and I noticed it beside me going west.
What did you notice about that car?
Well, it seemed unusual because I remember seeing the car like it being a friend of mine, and I have been in it a number of times, and I kind of noticed it because of the description of the car and wheels he had just recently put on it.
Did you know whether that car had been stolen?
Yes.
Object to that as being hearsay.
It is assuming a fact, not an evidence to hearsay.
Well, assuming a fact, not an evidence.
All right, objection sustained.
What kind of a car was this?
It was a Cadillac.
What did you do at that time?
What did I do at that time?
All right. Any questions? It's hot, I think they are. It's hot. It's gonna be really muggy today, I think. Any questions on 160? All right. Let's continue on with this one. This will be 140. So we still have Robert Tatum, Tatum. Now we get to Virginia Avenue and Long Beach Boulevard and Mr. William Chew, Chew. Allstate, 49th Street, Jack's Liquor Store, Jack apostrophe S, correct. Mr. Brent, Brent, Robert Tatum, and I think that's it. All right.
One.
Yeah, let's
We're
start
gonna
on.
start with that.
Okay. Can't read that. All right, our tape's on. All right, so now 140. I will be plaintiff Mr. Grenier, Grenier.
I am the witness.
I am the court.
I am for defense, Mr. Gedge, Gedge.
All right, begins with Mr. Grenier. Ready? When you say it was really his, who did you mean?
Robert Tatum's.
Did you see who was driving that car?
Not at that time.
Did you see where the car went to?
Yes, I observed it was heading, crossing the street on Virginia Avenue, and at that time I made a right-hand turn onto Long Beach Boulevard and was going to make the street coming back east on my next street over.
Where did you see this car go?
Well, I observed it. It came back up. I forget the name of the street, but it was coming up that street, heading west heading toward Long Beach Boulevard.
Did you ever see the car stop?
Yes, I saw it. It stopped in an alley behind this street and parked in a garage or carport.
Did you see who got out of that car?
Yes, I observed him get out of the car. I saw Mr. William Chu.
Do you see that person in court today?
Yes, I do.
Would you point to him, please?
The record may indicate he pointed at the defendant.
Then, what did you do?
Well, when he parked his car and like I was parked right behind him to observe him get out. He got out of the car, locked the door, proceeded around the alley, going to the apartment. I didn't observe which apartment he was heading to.
What did you do?
Well, I stopped, to take a better look at the car and observed that he had the Allstate tag in the back of the car, and I observed by, from the first time it was stolen, that it had a dent in the rear. So I noticed that, and I proceeded to get Robert to inform him that that was his car.
So you were able to determine that you felt that that was Robert Tatum's car at that time?
Yes.
Did you then contact Robert Tatum?
Yes, I did.
Now, after you talked to Robert Tatum, what did you do then?
After I spoke to Robert,
Yes.
Robert got in the car and I brought him over to the carport to inform him that that was his car.
After you did that, what did you do?
What did I do? Like I stayed with the car while Robert, he went to call the police.
Did anybody come back to the car?
No, none other than a friend of mine. He passed by, He was curious as to what was happening.
Then what happened?
And then I observed Mr. Chu, like he walked around the building and was walking down 49th Street. And at that time, I asked another friend of mine to watch the car, and I went to get Tatum to tell him that that was the guy that stole his car.
Now, did you see the defendant Chu go somewhere?
Yes, I did.
Where did he go?
I observed him. He walked up 49th Street to an ice cream. It was like an ice cream parlor-like deal with a little hamburger stand right on the corner of 49th and Long Beach Boulevard.
Is there a liquor store near there?
Yes, there is also a liquor store, Jack's Liquor Store, right off 49th and Long Beach Boulevard.
Then what did you do?
After I had went to get Tatum, he came out with the gun. He was going to hold him until the policeman came. He was saying like he had a problem trying to get in contact with the officers. So what we planned to do was catch him and hold him until the officers came.
No further questions?
Mr. Brent, had you ever seen Mr. Chu before this evening?
Not that I can recall.
Now, after you saw the car, you lost sight of that automobile for a while, did you not? After you saw the car go into the carport, Didn't you leave the area?
After I saw it go in the carport?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
All right, is it getting better? Uh-oh.